I'm glad you have today off. Me too. Nobody argued with Bob when she told Raythu to take the next few days themselves, but then she said the same for me and Cyrus. I told her I could stick around. She said she had Husnia, Eric, and Drek, and also I worked overtime last week and I kind of needed the break. Yeah, you do. You're still doing culinary classes. Yeah. Speaking of Raythu, can I ask a question? Sure. Don't know if I'll have the answer. Raythu and I aren't close. It's not about that. More about the love spell. Because I've been thinking, magic can change reality, right? I mean, that's what Bob does all the time, but how does that exactly work with free will? Like, those protective charms that you have around the coven, they're probably responsible for putting me there when Stacy was to protect you. And I didn't even realize it. It's just, the more I think about it, the squishier it feels. It's a thin line. Generally speaking, within the magic community, the difference between a good witch and a bad one, morally, is that moral witches place spells on themselves, and the universe adjusts accordingly, setting up the circumstances naturally without overriding anyone else's emotions or decisions. I used a love attraction spell myself. But really? It was the first spell I cast, the black ring on my dresser. It only works if it's being worn, and I wore it because I had a crush on you, but was nervous about asking you out. The ring did not adjust your feelings to me. It simply attracted those already attracted to me. Like when you put a steak in a room. If the room is full of rabbits, but not dogs, the steak is left alone. If there are dogs, then they'll follow the smell, but only if they're hungry. That's a bad metaphor. Dogs are always hungry. No, I think I get it. Your love spell didn't make me want to ask you out. It just brought the dog to the steak. Exactly. If you hadn't already been interested, you wouldn't have asked me out. Well, you dropped such obvious hints, you practically asked me out. Only because I saw an opportunity. You weren't working at the moment. Cyrus and Bob were doing their own things, and we had just seen a really bad date from another couple that let me start the conversation naturally. Circumstances aligned perfectly, but if you hadn't been interested, you would have turned me down even with all of that. Okay, so you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. Precisely. I think. I've never been into horses. As for the protective charms that brought you to the coven on the same day as Stacy, you have a known habit of saving leftover CaFae snacks for me, even if you've never delivered it to the coven itself before. The spell may have given you the idea to do that, but ultimately it was your decision to follow it, the same way Stacy decided to try to attack me. If you had been sick, or across the country, or otherwise unavailable, something else would have happened. Stacy's car would have gotten a flat tire, or I would have been unable to greet her due to some work in the back. In some cases, the witches just get a bad feeling about being in a certain place at a certain time and avoid it. Huh. Another possibility is that you had the idea to go to the coven at that date and time all on your own, and the spell instead focused on Stacy. Perhaps it gave her the idea to bother me at that specific time, if she already suspected I'd placed the binding spell on her. Or maybe the Wi-Fi that she used to track me to the coven acted a little slower or faster to time her arrival with yours. Or maybe the binding spell did it instead. Oh, I didn't even consider that. Now let's compare that to Jenny. Rather than place a love attraction charm on herself, aligning herself with the current of the universe, she instead decided to target someone else specifically, planting emotions there that did not exist and influencing Raythu's decisions without their consent. And she didn't even have a good reason for doing it. What would have happened if Raythu hadn't caught it as quick as they did? Would they have eventually, actually fallen in love? Maybe. There are stories of relationships beginning with such spells only for the victim to find out years later after the spell has run out or been destroyed. It almost always implodes the relationship, the real love and emotion souring because of such a betrayal of trust. Yeah, I'll bet. Would it make you feel better to have a protective charm, the same type I gave Raythu? Huh? What? It would ensure that any feelings you have for me are completely natural and your own. No, babe. First of all, I started falling for you way before you started being a badass witch, so there's no way magic was involved in that. Also, I've seen you with your magic. I know you would never do anything like that either. It's just... Like magic is cool. It has its uses. I love that you're pursuing it because you love it and want to help people, and it's definitely useful when Bob plays that card, but it just... sometimes it weirds me out. When I'm baking, I know exactly what I'm going to get when I put a certain amount of sugar, flour, butter, and cream into something. Magic isn't like that. It's a bit more unpredictable and subtle and sneaky. And that's fine. Chaos is fine. It's great. I just need to know how to navigate it. Yeah, I never liked baking. I always thought it was kind of boring and finicky. You get one thing wrong and the whole thing falls apart. That's why I like art, especially the more abstract kind. Mistakes are either easily covered or become part of the piece. Yeah, and they also didn't result in you blowing up the kitchen because you wanted waffles while high. Long story. Funny one, though. There's a reason I went sober. Eric was actually there for this one, and he swore that the best way to make waffles was with bacon grease, and this is also when I found out he was a dirty liar. Hi, Miss Ameth. Rathu is not in today, sorry. That's quite alright. I'm actually here to speak with Jennifer Charles. Present and spoken for. How's the hatchling? Growing like a weed and already with teeth and claws. I actually came to talk to you about both the fundraiser and that little incident with the love spell. Oh yeah. How'd the fundraiser go and how's Rathu doing? Rathu's doing great, doing a couple of therapy checkups just to be sure, and the fundraiser went phenomenally. We raised almost twice our goal and those ghost pepper cookies got a ton of compliments. Yes! Anyway, for all of your help with that, with Rathu, I wanted to give you something that I should have given you after you went through the trouble and risk of saving my dragon egg, but I was so scatterbrained that I just wasn't thinking straight. Here. What's this? That is a badge that my family uses to officially put people or businesses under their protection. It was created when we first moved to America by my Spanish grandmother and Nordic grandfather. That's why the Tree of Life is our symbol of choice. It's since been updated to the new modern design you see there. The Hebrew translates to under the wings of protection. Normally our friends put it on their windows so others know not to mess with them. I'm giving one to Stoughton Street. I would have offered one to Bob for here, but seeing as Rathu works here? Yeah, no one with their right minds is screwing with the fairy, and when they do, it's hilarious. Thanks. I forget you guys used to be enforcers, especially you, Ameth. Used to? What's an enforcer? It's kind of an umbrella term for a bunch of under-the-table jobs. We beat people up, dear. Specifically for my family, people who would try to kidnap and or abuse Selkies and other paranormies that the US government first refused to believe exist and then refused to do anything to actually protect until the Fae Rights Act of the late 60s. And even then, we occasionally have to step in just to make sure that our friends are treated respectfully. Oh, remind me to tell you two about the time a Selkie got her skin stolen by a US deputy and came here for help. Rathu and Bob did a team up. Is that... I'm not judging or anything, ACAB all the way, but is that legal? Yeah, technically no. I mean, most people pay for that type of protection, which makes it a kind of racket, which cops don't usually like, and they also don't like the whole assault and battery that typically comes along with this. But they can play that violent all they want as long as no one's getting extorted. And you know Rathu and Ameth, they would never do that. Oh, okay. Wait, I thought you ran fundraisers. Full-time, yes. This is a part-time gig since we've largely been out of demand for the last few decades, which is good, it's great, but considering the trouble that you lot all get into on a regular basis, I thought the extra shield wouldn't go amiss. Honestly, probably for the best, yeah. Did you want that cookie recipe before you go? Would you? My favorite Black author? Probably Nadia Corfor for world building alone, but Alexander Dumas has a lot of bangers, and Isabel Wilkerson, great for history. You? It's really hard to narrow it down. You recommended Justina Ireland a while ago, and I really appreciate how some of her Black characters are queer. Yeah, she's probably one of my favorites of this decade. I've got a book called A Black Woman's History of the United States, and this month I want to actually read it. Well, that's a depressing title. Hey man, morning. What are we gabbing about? Book recommendations for Black History Month. Oh yeah, I've been seeing some posters. Makes me wonder when the schools do White History Month. They do. It's March through January. Point taken. Cyrus, can I get my usual? I gotcha. One thing I will say as a teacher is that they only ever focus on slavery and Martin Luther King during this month, as if that's all we are. We do need to talk about them, especially in today's environment, but I wish we'd cover other topics. The Harlem Renaissance, Marsha P. Johnson, the Great Migration. The Great what, darling? Between World War I and the 1970s, millions of black Americans left the South for northern and western cities, both for economic opportunities and to get away from Jim Crow. It completely reshaped the demographic landscape, political and economic environments, and had a big impact on the civil rights movement. My grandfather was a part of it. Oh. You know, my wife and I were from Mississippi originally, and I remember being a boy walking to school. Uphill, both ways, in the snow. Shush. Anyway, there were soybean farms on the way to and from, and most of the workers were, of your demographic, black. They were sharecroppers, too. Sometimes I talked to some of them. They were always real nice, to me at least. One of them was Sam. He had just the goofiest sense of humor, had a new joke every day. And then one day, Sam wasn't there. He just disappeared. First I thought he was sick, and then I thought, well, it's Mississippi, and this was the 50s. But when I asked around, it turned out that he and his whole family had moved on up to Chicago, just up and left overnight. Didn't even tell their boss. Didn't even tell their friends. Nobody knew anything until they wrote back. Of course not. Most had to do the exact same thing for safety reasons. Farm owners would threaten, hurt, imprison, financially abuse, or even kill employees who tried to leave. I remember being real hurt that he'd just leave like that. But the older I get, and the more I found out about what life was like for those folks, I see why he did it. I'd have done the same thing. So that's what your granddaddy did? Basically. Except his boss was a vampire who, in addition to the usual, also enjoyed eating her employees. Yeah, and I'll bet she and Sam's boss complained that no one wants to work anymore, too. Here's your coffee. It'll be $3.50. Happy birthday to us. Happy birthday to us. Wait, really? Whose birthday? CaFae Latte's! 'Tis the anniversary. Really? Oh, yes. As of today, this is the first anniversary of CaFae Latte. Oh, cool. Wait, didn't you say that you opened this place up back in the 60s? Ooh, you made brownies. Hey, no. Bad fairy. Ow! Wait until after the customers. So we do anything special? Yes, we're launching the Kickstarter for the book. JC, where do you keep your extra toilet paper? I used the last of it. Hallway closet, bottom shelf. And your eggs are almost ready. Thank you. Well, it won't win a Michelin star, but it has calories, meat, dairy, and even some vegetables in an attempt at being responsible. Smells good. What's this? I thought you weren't into candles. Something about them being too damn expensive for a low-tech light bulb. Yeah, but you're into them, and that was originally going to be for Valentine's Day as like a cheap gag gift. But then the whole Ray through Jenny thing happened, and I thought that it would probably be in bad taste, so love spell. Yeah, that might have been bad. That smells good. Right? Roses and sugar? Yeah, I know you like that lighter, flowery stuff. This is a really good gift. Thank you. You still want to keep it? Mine. All right. Stand down. Come and eat your breakfast. So, how does this Dungeons and Dragons work? Don't worry, sweetie, it's easy. You, Cyrus, Kenny, Toothy, and Drek here, thanks for coming. Yay! Mom says that you're in charge of feeding me. Pizza and snacks are on the kitchen counter. Yes! You each all play a character in an adventure group and handle the obstacles and battles that I, the Dungeon Master, throw at you. Yeah, it's kind of like one of those choose your own adventure stories, but we're probably gonna lose the plot in like 5 minutes. Don't think that Patrick's gonna go easy on you because you're his girlfriend, okay? This man dropped a beholder on us when we were level 3. I told you not to open the door. She has a point. So who or what am I playing? We made it easy for you. Human fighter. Your job is to just be the meat shield, especially for Toothy's character, who's a wizard. She's gonna die if you breathe on her wrong. I'm playing an artificer, so I make a bunch of cool gadgets to buff our stats. Kenny's the rogue, so they're very sneaky, and Drek... Who are you, buddy? I'm a cleric, so you guys don't die. Yeah, it's probably a good call. Although it's a sad day that the teenager is going to be the responsible one. Tank, artillery, mechanic, black ops, medic. All right then. Great, awesome. Okay, so you all enter the town, and the mayor tells you that they've been cursed by an evil wizard. Toothy, buddy, no. Torture is the least reliable method of getting information. He is unfortunately correct. But perhaps we can do a good adventurer, bad adventurer. After all, bribes tend to work very well when compared against the threat of such a thing. Why do I feel like you're speaking from experience? Why is it that Tooth Fairy's wizard character goes unconscious within 2 rounds, but this evil wizard isn't going down? Game mechanics. Villain can't be too easy to beat, now can he? Oh, don't mind me. Just the cleric being at 2 hit points and surrounded by bad guys. If you're really a medic, you'll survive. Can I jump onto the platform the wizard is shooting at us from? It's 30 feet up. Right, fighter. Don't worry, Drek, I've got health potions. I think. I believe I've heard that someone is supposed to seduce the dragon? Drek, you've got high charisma. Care to give it a roll? What? I don't know how to seduce. I think that might be a little too high level for us. I'm just gonna hit it with my mace. And that's it. The dragon is dead, but you've got a trail leading to a potentially bigger threat a few towns over. Everyone levels up to 5. Hey, that's a big level for fighters. You get to attack twice. Yeah, assuming, you want to come back. I'm gonna need more dice.